Hello, everybody. The University of Kabul is wrapping up their gender studies program, as you have heard. But worry not, the German Ministry for Foreign Affairs have now filled the void. They have created a website with all the resources feminists all over the world and women all over the world need to empower themselves. It is called sendasignal.today. That's the actual URL. It's in English URL because the site is available, accessible. Accessibility is always important. It's accessible for women all over the place in Afghanistan and outside of it. They also operate under the hashtag zeichensetzen on social media. Zeichensetzen is German for send a signal. So that is their overall motto. Responsible for the page is, of course, the entire ministry, but first and foremost, their gender equality representative, Claudia Böhm. She has two deputy gender equality representatives at her disposal. You also find on their website for women who don't operate with any job title, but they are introduced as the Gender Equality Office. That shall not hold them back in their career because we believe in women. The topics of the website, and I just want to run you through that entire thing, not only because it's funny, but also it gives a lot of insight of how feminism works. I once wanted to make an entire series about it, but I always have a lot of ambitions that are too many to actually work through. But I want to touch today on the number of topics they believe in, or they claim to believe in, the core of their, or not the entire core of their, but a huge portion of the core of the ideology that is feminism. So the topics on that website are International Women's Day, which is actually only the introduction, and I don't really understand what it is about. They say in 14 different countries, and so far they have absolutely nothing left on that particular page, outside of an announcement that they are going to update the page in the coming months. So maybe the 14 different countries will somehow materialize in the time to come. But I won't pay attention. I think nobody with a brain will. Then the second topic, is structural discrimination, and there is prejudice, gender bias, intersectionality, gender neutral language, and man and equality. Maybe I'll just pick as a first topic the intersectionality one because it's the easiest. The page is still quite empty, and they have one video in which they basically explain intersectionality, how you know it from PragerU and so on. And there's little surprising about it outside of the fact that it is a good translation. You all know it was developed by a girl called Crenshaw or something, and it is an American import, so they have to translate all these these phrases and words that make up that science. I mean, they have to kind of obfuscate the reality that their thoughts are not terribly deep, and therefore they have put up all these different words that are very difficult to explain to everybody outside of the English sphere, everybody who's not introduced to the concepts so far. And actually, I mean, outside of us being taught the consequences of all of this nonsense, people who just speak German are not usually familiar with the idea that everything is literally about oppression, and your very identity is just layers of various oppressions and blah, blah, blah. This victimhood nonsense. What strikes me about the video as well is the focus on equality. I think it's overtly overdone, and it appears in two places. At the very beginning, it says not everybody has equal chances, which is true. And the second one is at the very end. they say it is the responsibility of a pluralist society to grant equal protection to everybody. And you see already how unspecific they are about the word equality. Either it's about the chances or it's about protections. And a pluralist society has actually no responsibility outside of responsibilities that all societies share, or to keep the society in and of itself pluralist. Pluralist in the original sense meant actually that people are free to speak and express their minds and form their ideas freely. That was a pluralist society in the past. It was always a diversity of ideas and never about a diversity of skin colors and so on. Those things, those pluralities are utterly unimportant. From the very beginning, what a pluralist society was supposed to create was a plurality of ideas, of opinions, of voices, so that everybody gets heard. The everybody gets heard idea is what is baked into the word pluralism. It is not about some racial nonsense, some gender nonsense, some sexual orientation, blah, blah. That was never what the idea was originally about. Okay, now let's talk about the delusions, because it's a cult-like system, and they have created this gender bias tab that is about the core of the ideology, I would say. I'm going to talk about the structural oppression claims, the discrimination claims in a moment. All of this is based on utter delusions, and they have created a bingo of claims instead of the numbers. They have claims that are prejudice in their own words, prejudice about women or genders. And of course, if you if you find yourself believing such things, then you scream bingo and get hung or whatever. So, for example, if you hold that a woman is more emotional than a man, you are oppressive. It also has other statements related to such dangerous, terrible notions that are prejudices in and of themselves. For example, women are bad leaders. I think there is not a single culture that believes that women can't be good leaders occasionally. The ancient Egyptians had Hatshepsut and Cleopatra, for example. The Russians had Queen Catherine. The English had Queen Victoria, and so on and so on and so on. All countries, also including Muslim countries like Pakistan, a lot of countries had at some point a woman leader. Or at least, at some level, had a woman leader that had won a lot of esteem in society. Nobody does that. In principle, women can have strong leadership qualities, and the individual woman can be a strong leader. But if somebody is presented with, are women good leaders, he generalizes usually. He finds an overall assessment of whether or not that is true. And nobody translates this into all women are bad leaders or something like this. Everybody knows there are some who have a male brain, so to say. And I think feminists and this entire bingo is about taking everything personal. This is something that when it comes to the migration politics, as well as basically everything that is coming out of this screechy social justice warrior corner, is about taking everything personal. Believe that everything stops your personal life from flourishing. Everything is against you. That is the premise, and this is what this bingo is about. So if you say women are typically not good leaders, it is translated by these crazies as you as a woman are discouraged from trying becoming a leader. And in the same vein, there is another example. I've been irritated by a woman who is attractive and intelligent at the same time. This is something I don't know if anybody actually is. I don't know a single person who really is. I am actually irritated by dumb people. The idea is you are supposed to take it personal. You are supposed to feel insulted by the sheer proposal. You are supposed to think that you can either look good or be intelligent, and therefore you have to dress down, and you have to not outshine all these ugly, overweight women, and so on and so on. This is what it is all about. It is about taking everything personal, being angry all the time, and in the best sense from their perspective, to start a revolution. Then there is I interrupt women more frequently than men. There are these weird cliches that make absolutely no sense. I know a lot of women who like to interrupt others. There is, when it comes to decorating a new apartment, I'm more likely to consult a woman. That is apparently a woman-on-woman crime, because I don't think that most men would ever consult an interior designer or anything. That is a woman-on-woman crime. So you, as a woman, become a sexist. And what also sticks out, in my opinion, is I believe that women and men think fundamentally differently. And that is absolutely obvious to me. It is probably also obvious to you. And yet, of course, we are going to claim that all of these proposals are utterly wrong. And not only that, you have to force yourself to think differently. This is all based on the delusion that reality does not exist. It is a form of idealism that is that has given birth to the post-modernism, if you will, and they believe that you can basically deny reality, and by denying it, you are constructing a new one. So maybe the beginning of idealism in the history of philosophy was that you said, okay, I don't believe that the pagan gods are responsible for, let's say, for fishing, and the next god is responsible for the I don't know, for the sea as such, and people have arguments about whether the fishing god should be worshipped or the sea god if you want to fish successfully. From that perspective, the metaphorical is so insane. You have nonsense discussions all the time. People said, okay, what I can't see, I don't believe. I just believe what I see. Okay, so at the very beginning of this philosophical route, they had probably tried to BS the conversations. They just insisted, okay, what I can't see, I don't want to hear about. Okay, just leave me alone with your claims about gods and dwarfs and blah blah blah. Okay, this was what it was about, a no BSing, anti-BSing movement at its core. And it's interesting how that can turn into a complete denial of reality. Okay, what I don't see does not exist, therefore everything is just subjective to what I see, what I perceive. Therefore my perception is what creates the reality. What I don't perceive, what I don't understand and comprehend, doesn't even exist. And therefore we all have different worlds, different perceptions, and therefore a different reality. There's no longer such a thing as a common reality. Your language constructs reality suddenly, and there's nothing outside of yourself. There's nothing that is just real for it and of itself. And if that is already the case, then obviously nothing can be verified. Your claim, his claim, their claim, and that is then postmodernism, where nothing can be verified, where everything is just he says, she says. And this is where we are at. Now we are at a place where a statement like, I believe that women and men think fundamentally differently can be refuted, no matter how obvious it is, in the name of a higher good. Now you just reconstruct reality. The authority just reconstructs it for you, and suddenly men are no longer, interested in the outside, are no longer more solist in their lifestyles, and women are no longer more socially minded, and so on and so on. No, that's all just constructed. They go a long way to actually say that it is all based on some cultural backdrop, some traditions, some perceptions. Nothing of it is just real for the sake of a reality. that has been there for a variety of reasons. Some of them maybe cultural, some of them are cultural, but a huge portion of it also biological. That can be refuted because now we are in this randomness of hyper idealism where what you don't see doesn't exist, and everybody sees something different, and therefore, because everybody sees something different from a different angle, a shared reality does no longer exist, and basically we can all claim all kind of nonsense and refute facts or statements that are at least very, very plausible. And they say, under the headline check on the same page, it's 2021, but gender stereotypes are still an integral part of our thinking. And often we are not even aware of them. We all fall prey to gender bias. So here it is obviously something very bad to believe certain things, no matter if they are true or not. You fall prey, so this is an aggressive act. The causes are numerous, and here it comes: cultural thought patterns, traditional norms, which is the same basically, social assumptions, also basically the same. It's what we think, what we do, right? The society, and past experiences. So past experiences is actually the only acknowledgement that maybe there is something of a reality outside of what people say and do anyways. That men and women may be just different because that's the reality of our species. That's the only acknowledgement, if there is, right? But basically that's not even one. And the underlying idea of postmodernism in general is that the powerful come to decide what reality is. That there is no such thing as something outside of your perception. And therefore, you cannot cling on anything outside of what the authorities tell you is. So everything can be refuted. Nothing is objective. Everything is your subjective perception. It is only what you see, and therefore it is incomplete. And the authority can refute everything on your behalf, and you just have to adapt. There's even one suggestion, and I'm not kidding. One proposal how you deal with the prejudices, which is statements the authorities don't like you to believe or to say. And one of those is to trick yourself. They actually say trick yourself. And they give an example, but it doesn't really matter. I think that's a general approach. They ask you to fool yourself. They ask you to become a cultish, delusional person. That's how deep it runs. The feminism at this point is no longer about some women's rights, equality in the application of rules for men and women. That's no longer what it is about. It is about a fundamental religious awakening among the enlightened class, I would say. Okay, so now let's talk about the consequences. Their claims of oppression. That's called structural discrimination. And now let's talk about the consequences of the delusion. Their claims of oppression, the so-called structural discrimination. And bear in mind that this is the same idea that you hear about racism. That's also supposed to be structural. And as you will see, conservatives make a huge mistake to just say, well, there is nothing structural about racism, and we are cross-talking here. I always felt we are cross-talking here. Many of these low IQ leftists who don't really know the deeper theory, they just say structural and mean universal. Like it's a lot. It happens a lot, and this is more difficult to refute because who has the exact data? You know, it's more difficult to refute than something specific. But what conservatives completely miss out to address is the core of the assumptions, what they actually mean with structural discrimination, and ask them what structural discrimination actually is. They may well come up with what the foreign ministry, the German foreign ministry have put up on their website. And you will find out that you are basically a bigot if you don't live in a society and if you don't aspire a society where everybody walks in locksteps all the time. it is absolutely chilling, and I walk you through a graph they have created. At school, they are still 50-50, so it goes. Then they continue, and at university, they are also still 50-50. And by the way, don't study. If you're not really interested, if you're not deeply into natural sciences, actual research, something that actually requires a university degree, don't study. After university in the graph, the average salary, which is apparently 22.8 euro per hour for a male, and 18 euro and 60 cent for a woman. At the very beginning of their career, 34% of men and 43% of women have confidence in reaching higher managerial roles. I think that is telling in and of itself how feminists view the world, because the men here have a much lower interest in reaching higher managerial roles. Not just confidence, but I also would say that the number is so much lower because they have a lower interest, because men believe they have a career when they achieve something. And you can achieve something with things. You can achieve accolades by technological advancements, by dealing with chemicals, by creating a lot of things, by building something. Your idea of making it is different from I would say a more feminine idea of having as many children replacements under you, okay? Because this is how feminists envision power or careers. It is to have somebody lower than you. This is how they envision success. It is all about hierarchy and status. Very different from young men. And I think from the next step on, it becomes utterly ridiculous. 3 hours of housework are done by men, I think, per week. And 4 3/4 are done by women, I guess, according to polls. And 12% of part-time jobs are taken by... No, that can't be it. 12% of men are going to take a part-time role at some point in their careers. I guess that's how the number, the 12%, relate. And 48% of women take part-time jobs at some point in their careers. I guess that's the reading. Or I don't believe that currently 12% of men are holding part-time jobs. I'm not sure. But anyways, so the message is that, men do that less often, therefore they oppress their wives. Then there is a request for a temporary leave for a family, to care for a family member, is made 2 in 3 times by a woman, and only 1 in 3 requests are made by men. And what it all boils down to is that structural discrimination. That discrimination is when you make your choices. That's it. Because they actually don't show any real restriction, anything that forces anybody to do something. Discrimination is when not everybody parades down the street like some North Korean soldier in a military parade. That is discrimination. And even in a military parade, some people come first, and some will be in the tail. Not everybody arrives at the end of it at the same time. You can't have perfect equality. And here is the kicker. Conservatives fail to say, we don't want your utopia. Your utopia is crap, and you don't even believe in your utopia. It is something you yourself would not want. You would not want perfect equality. You would want that some people make choices that result in a higher income, and other people have the choice to, have more children, and so on and so on. You also would like some level of freedom, even if you claim that you are overtly concerned about equality, and more so than about freedom, and so on and so on. That level, what they demand, a society has to become, not to be racist, sexist, because structural is also about racism, right? Not to be a bigoted society is a level of equality nobody would seriously want. They put up a target you can't ever hit. That is the goal. It is to shame you into believing that you have failed and you can't succeed. And conservatives are dumb enough to say, oh, there is no such thing as structural discrimination. Well, according to those targets, everything is structural discrimination. So your response should actually be, yeah, well, and I'm proud of it because I don't want everybody to do the exact same thing, because that is your definition of structural racism, sexism, discrimination. That's your definition is everything that creates some level of individuality is evil. And the German government, in the form of the foreign ministry, has 8 jobs to do for men. Number 1, reflect and question role models. Of course, they're all evil. You have seen the discrimination paradigm, the structural discrimination paradigm. All differences are evil. Second, allow emotions. And of course, they don't mean all emotions. You must not show hate, obviously. What they mean is emotions that give away that you're weak. And I personally think we as men have developed not to show these emotions. It's ultimately a part of your maturity to reduce the negative emotions you give away. And the reason is that we live in a hostile world. And whenever you show weaknesses, there are people who want to exploit them. I would rather live in a world that's less aggressive and where I don't know, where I could actually open up on a lot of things, but that is not the world we live in. And the left is not the group of people that allows you to give away your weaknesses. Stephen, what's his name? Louder Crowder, this guy, and Katie Hopkins, they talk about their health issues. And I personally feel already quite nervous about this because times are getting tough and there are very evil people out there. You don't want people to know what weaknesses you have, because some people are evil. They are truly evil, and they will make damages to you look like accidents if necessary from their point of view. A lot of crazy people out there. Don't show weaknesses if you don't have to. Number 3, be a progressive father. So progressivism, a political direction, is advised by the German government. Number 4, pay attention to equitable division of labor. And of course, they mean here household, child care, and so on. Private decision, privacy. Can't have that in a socialist-minded government. Number 5, use gender-inclusive language. Oh my goodness, I have to actually talk about that too in a moment. Number 6, advocate for workplace equality. Number 7, take a stand against sexism and I don't know, it's very strange to say lewd and derogatory comments. Actually, comments are either lewd or derogatory. And I don't see how derogatory comments are on the same level. And they also speak about sexual violence. And I've noticed it's a common trick among feminists to always throw in some claims of how everything is violent and everybody's beaten all the time. They always hype the negative emotions, and they always pepper it with anecdotes of violence in most benign contexts. Like, derogatory comments, like literally derisive, fun comments, are somehow on the level of violence and almost murder. Number 8, draw attention to and fight inequalities. I'm also getting very nervous about a ever more progressive government that expects constant fighting. I don't actually want to talk too much about the entire language nonsense. I just want to run that video with you. It is based on the idea again that everything is just idealism in the extreme form, that your language constructs the very reality, right? The reality is not just there. The left does not believe there is the left believes something has been constructed. It's just a perception, and language is just a vessel of past perceptions. They haven't baked in, and this is literally what they say in the interview that's also left on that page, but I won't run through it with you. I just want to show you that that video to show you how crazy it is in German, because the German language gives a lot of opportunities to address women and men separately. And feminists have decided that visibility of women lifts their status in society. And now we have a separate language, I would say, a priest language that is designed to be cumbersome. They want to create a language that forces people to show how much they conform ultimately. And it is by the way it is constructed, impossible to tick all the boxes. It's so difficult. Everybody will just occasionally signal that he does something to conform to the gender blah blah society. And there are so many options to say, well, the actor or the actress works for the director or directress in that movie, and if he or she does not like him or her, then he or she may call the manager and manageress. You see how that goes. I'll run for you a part of that video, because it shows how deep it runs, how much of the German language they feel they have to tinker with. It's insane. And for copyright reasons, I'm just saying this is like an historic document. I'm linking to the place where it appears on their website. I can't not quote it, and I'm not using more of it than I need to make the point that it is absolutely nuts. And I have to kind of verify to the viewers that this is what's going on, and it has subtitles, so you as viewers can read how crazy it is.
Sprache ist ein Spiegelbild unserer Gesellschaft. Und Sprache kann ein Motor für Veränderung sein. Wenn du geschlechtergerechte Sprache verwendest, schaffst du Voraussetzungen für mehr Gleichstellung zwischen den Geschlechtern. 3 Techniken helfen dir dabei. Erstens, die Genderlücke. Damit ist das Einbinden einer kurzen Pause gemeint. Diese gesprochene Lücke platzierst du zwischen der männlichen und der weiblichen Form eines Wortes, zum Beispiel Botschafterin. Im Schriftlichen taucht die Lücke als Gendersternchen, Schrägstrich, Unterstrich oder Doppelpunkt auf und symbolisiert so die Vielfalt der Geschlechteridentitäten. Zweitens, neutrale Formulierungen. In vielen Fällen lässt sich das generische Maskulinum vermeiden, indem du auf alternative Bezeichnungen ausweichst. Leitung statt Leiter, Fachkraft statt Fachmann oder Mitarbeitende statt Mitarbeiter. Drittens, Doppelnennungen. Eine weitere Technik ist die vollständige Nennung der weiblichen und der männlichen Form. So würde man zum Beispiel von Bürgerinnen und Bürgern sprechen, anstatt sich nur für eine Form zu entscheiden.
That was it. As I said, so many options to distinguish how much somebody is obedient to the ideology. And it is very obvious that this is an utter cult. Nobody can ever hit the targets. This is the whole purpose of it. This is an actual tool of oppression. Likewise, the targets for the perfect equality, they put out these goals in order to measure you. Okay, they never give you something that you can actually achieve. And conservatives are so dumb if they continue to defend themselves against these stupid you have not yet reached this or that goal allegations, knowing that they are unattainable. There is no way in hell you can ever have this perfect lockstep society. There's not even a way you can construct your language to include all men, all women, and all non-binaries all the time. The actor, the actress, and the non-binary acting person. Keep that in mind, review the challenge all together. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you soon. Bye.